Back on August 7th, GPT-5 dropped and we're still not talking about AGI. The day before, Sam Altman posted a tick of the Death Star as a teaser. Honestly, I think he was talking more about his ego. The reactions were mixed. Among developers, some were impressed by its coding power, while others were downright skeptical. By the end of this video, you'll discover the new features of ChatGPT, what changes they bring, and how we should adapt our way of working with it. You've probably tried ChatGPT-5 and noticed that it doesn't feel like a huge leap forward. The reason is that we've gotten used to small iterations. We didn't go straight from GPT-4 to GPT-5. In between, there was O1, O3, O4, and even 4.5. Previously, you had to choose yourself between two models. Either a next token model like Fortel, which is fast, limited in complex reasoning, or a reasoning model like O3, which is slower but capable of planning its steps. You had to decide even before to even start talking to it. GPT-5, on the other hand, merges both approaches. It incorporates a fast model, a reasoning model, and then a real-time router that automatically chooses which one to use based on your request, the context, the necessary tools, and even the explicit intention you give it. It will learn from your interactions, and you can influence it. If you wanted to dig deeper, you just say, think carefully about this, think step by step, do an in-depth analysis, then it will switch to reasoning mode. However, be careful, sometimes it will start reasoning for a long time even though that wasn't the goal. When you just want a tartar recipe and it switches to reasoning mode, you can always click on the option to get a quick answer to avoid it giving you 3 unnecessary paragraphs. OpenAI has decided to give users more control and to add more options when choosing models. Now you can find Auto, which acts as a router, Fast Thinking, Mini Thinking, and Pro. In the legacy models, you can also use the now defunct GPT-4o. And for those who have the Pro version of ChatGPT, all the legacy models are available. GPT-5 is particularly powerful for complex tasks. If you have a specific goal in mind, the possibilities are absolutely enormous. For example, imagine you're a CFO of a company. You could simply tell it, analyze our quarterly financial reports and build me a complete 3-statement financial model. I want you to include 3 distinct scenarios: pessimistic, realistic, and an optimistic one. Then GPT-5 will generate all of that for you in one go. Where it also differs is in following instructions. GPT-5 follows your instructions to the letter. I had to completely remove my custom instructions because it was following them too precisely. For example, in my custom instructions, I said be concise, but it would give me words or sentences of just 3 words, even though I was asking for a full video script. With the older versions of GPT-4o or O3, it could get around these kinds of rules if the context required more. And with the tests I've done, I also noticed that you often have to give it more precise instructions than before and sometimes insist more to get exactly what I want. It also often gives answers too short, even when I ask it to make them longer and more detailed. GPT-5 also has other limitations. It's still capable of making mistakes on simple math equations. If you ask it, for example, 5.9 minus 5.11 in fast mode, it gives you the wrong answer, and on top of that, it insists that it is the correct answer. In reasoning mode, however, it will find the right result. So keep in mind that if it's a task where accuracy is important, force it into reasoning mode and ask it to detail its steps. With GPT-5, what's still impressive is the reduction in factual errors. We're talking about 45% fewer than GPT-4o and 80% fewer than O3. I don't know if you know what sycophancy is, but it's the reflex to flatter or agree for no reason.
I'm thinking of starting a business where I turn French fries into salad.
Honestly, I think that's a pretty creative culinary twist. Turning French fries into salad sounds like a magical transformation where guilty pleasure meets healthy-ish vibes.
GPT-4o had a noticeable tendency to consistently agree with me. This behavior dropped from 14.5% to less than 6% with GPT-5. There's something I really like, which is that it admits more easily when it doesn't know. There's an example that went around the internet where someone asked it a very tricky math problem about an equilateral pentagon with specific coordinates. GPT-5 replied, "I don't know right away. I can do a computer search to find an example or try to produce a theoretical proof." That's new. Rather than hallucinating, it explains its limits and lets you choose what to do next. I really enjoyed writing with GPT 4.5. In writing, GPT-5 still structures ideas, gives structure to the ideas, and adds pace and polishes the text while following exactly the role and tone you assign to it. For example, when I wrote my scripts for my videos, I gave it an example of a transcript from an old video which helped it understand my style and tone well enough to reproduce them with my notes. It's only after testing GPT-5 for 2 weeks that I have a few tips to share to get the most out of GPT-5. First, I have 3 quick points. You absolutely must be precise, set strict constraints, and provide targeted context. For example, summarize this text in 3 short sentences, direct style, bullet point. It's short and effective, and GPT-5 responds well to this kind of command. Keep that in mind. It's the same as when you talk to other people. When you're vague, the chances that what you ask for will actually get done are relatively low. So it's the same with GPT-5. We set clear rules to prevent the model from getting scattered. We eliminate contradictions. Since ChatGPT follows instructions to the letter, contradictions will do more harm than with previous models. We'll also try to define a role in our prompts, which will force the model to focus on what's really important. In other videos, I talked to you in prompt engineering about the concept of few shot, meaning we wanted to give several examples in our prompt so that the model would understand it better. Here, we're going to limit the use of few shot style examples. Previously, seeing several examples helped the models understand what we wanted, but now focus mainly on clear instructions and the concise example if needed. A tip, by the way, there are several things that can cause your prompts not to work well. When you put in too many unnecessary details, it pollutes the model. So avoid the noise and focus on the pure signal, meaning clear and structured instructions. Also keep in mind that if you fill the context with too much information, the oldest instructions will be deleted. And with GPT-5, you'll still experience context decay, meaning the quality of the responses will be lower even if all the data is still present in the window. I encourage you to use meta prompting. I have a really good and practical example here that works very well for creating effective and well-structured prompts. You can even make it into a personal project for yourself, which could be quite beneficial and insightful. I also encourage you to use OpenAI's prompt optimization tool as well as the prompting guide for GPT-5. The new OpenAI model is more accurate, more structured, more honest, but also more demanding. If you want depth, activate reasoning mode. If it's just for a quick answer, ask for a short reasoning, play with personalities, optimize your prompts, take advantage of its context window, and keep in mind that it still has its limits. Well, there are still other new features with GPT-5 that are a bit more trivial, like personalities and the MIDI music generator, so I encourage you to try out the new model, share your discoveries, and let me know what you think.